life. I call on passion and empathy. I gave up my career to care for 4 babies. I now work 2 part-time jobs with flexible hours and minimum pay. Not by choice, but because our policies punish caregivers, especially caregivers of color. Every day I wake up afraid, turning on the news and finding out that we're losing Medicaid, child care, the ability to meet my girl's special needs. But I will not be silent as you're finding out. We must demand a government that puts people over profit. We cannot be led by billionaires. Caregivers are essential.
Hey, this is Ashley with Status Coup News, and John Farina and I are live in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania for our last night of covering Bernie Sanders' Fight the Oligarchy tour, where if you are watching the live stream, you can see that there's about 4,000 people in the stadium waiting to hear from Senator Bernie Sanders. If you've been watching the channel, you'll know that John and I have been on the ground covering Bernie's tour through Pennsylvania. Yesterday, John and I were in Harrisburg, and the day before we were in Philadelphia covering the rally, as well as the May Day March, which ended with some good trouble and some arrests. So if you haven't watched either of those live streams, do please check them out. If you are watching this afternoon, I'm sure you know that Bernie has been holding these rallies and town halls across the country to do what he does best. Talk about the class war waged against the working class by the oligarchs, the billionaires, the 1%, and the 1% of the 1%. Clearly, as you can see the crowd, the message is resonating with working people. These rallies have been drawing in crowds in the tens of thousands, and there is a reason for that. Working people are struggling, and this is what I've heard from the majority of people I've spoken to at these rallies. And 100 days after Trump took office with the promise of making lives better and easier for the working class, we are instead staring down a recession and empty store shelves. Meanwhile, Trump and his cronies are dismantling and selling off the government, especially those parts that working people rely on. And again, this turnout for Bernie under the banner of fighting the oligarchy tells you how working people are feeling about the state of the country. So stay tuned after the speakers, because we are going to go around and talk to working people about how they're doing right now in this chaotic moment and how they're feeling about fighting the oligarchy. So again, please do stay tuned, and we will talk to you after the event.
He was born into poverty, had extremely limited resources. My father quit school in the 10th grade, and like most poor, uneducated people, he worked job after job trying to provide for my brother and I as we lived in a trailer in Kutztown. After my father lost his job in 1989, which turned out to be a hidden blessing, my father got a job with Yellow Freight driving truck. You see, Yellow Freight was represented by the Teamsters Union, and the Teamsters made sure that the employees of Yellow Freight were well compensated, had good quality health care, and a pension to retire from. Now this is where my father and hero was able to change our future. It wasn't easy. He spent 20 years at Yellow Freight working hard, driving long hours, and then waiting on the side of a bed in a hotel room to get a call to tell him where he would be going next. But he did it. And within 10 years, he went from owning a trailer on a 10th of an acre in Kutztown to owning 7 single-family homes. After another 10 years of hard work, he sold those homes and invested the money wisely, and now has over $1 million to his name. As a result of my father's example and sacrifice, I tried to follow in his footsteps. I got a job at UPS freight driving truck, but at that time they weren't represented by a union. I contacted Teamster Local 773, and with their help, we started a campaign to organize UPS freight in Bethlehem. We won that organizing campaign and were successful in getting a good contract that allowed me to buy a home and raise my own family. Since that time, the Lord has blessed me, and I am now the Secretary-Treasurer and organizer of Teamster Local 773. So why have I chosen to tell you this story? The reason is because both myself and my father before me were able to achieve the American dream, where if you had the desire and were willing to work hard, you would have the opportunity to make something of yourself and change your future. Unfortunately, that is becoming increasingly more difficult. The right wing wants an army of mindless slaves to work for big mega corporations, making the rich richer, while the rest of us exist only to serve them and the elite. Once again, we are coming to a time in our history where there will be a vast separation of the classes, and you will have the rich and the poor, the haves and the have-nots. There will be no middle class, and make no mistake about it, the right-wing elite want that. Just recently, Nestle Purina Pet Care, one of the locations that Teamster Local 773 represents, went on strike for over 6 weeks. That corporate mega giant did everything they could to prevent paying those employees a fair wage and benefits. Because those brave men and women held strong and refused to be bullied by Nestle, we were able to secure them the best contract they ever had, including good wage increases, increases to their pension, and over 50 improvements to their contract. I applaud Senator Sanders for having the courage and the morals to stand up for unions and the working class, the men and women that make this country great when no other national politician is willing to do so the way he does it. And so I hope that every politician in this country is listening and following his example. If you are in a union or a member of a working class, then you have no greater friend than Senator Bernie Sanders, and I hope you will champion him as he continues to fight for you. Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce Tim Herzog, shop chairman for the United Auto Workers, Local 677.
Good afternoon, Lehigh. My name is Tim Herzog. I'm the shop chairman of UAW Local 677. Thank you. I'm extremely honored to be here. Thank you, Congressman DeLuzio and Senator Bernie Sanders. Allentown is a proud UAW town. It's home to Mack Trucks Local 677 and has been since the 1930s. Everyone in the Lehigh Valley knows the home of Mack, and for decades, workers have proudly built Mack Trucks. But more importantly, because of the union, it has built a dignified life for thousands of workers. A life where you can raise a family, own a home, take your kids to the doctor without worrying about breaking the bank, and you can retire knowing you'll be all right, because you had a pension and health care that you have earned. Workers at Mack Trucks have generated billions in profits for this company for decades. But to the greedy corporation, it wasn't enough. Last year, Mack had a choice. When they were looking to expand, they could have invested right here. They could have put their money into the people who have built this company from the ground up. Instead, they chose to exploit workers in Mexico for $4 an hour. I know, right? $4. That's what they think our labor is worth. That's what they think we are worth. It didn't choose Pennsylvania. They didn't choose Lehigh Valley. They chose stock buybacks. They chose Wall Street. They chose to send our jobs down south so executives can cash in. It isn't just a bad deal, it's a disaster. It's broken promises, shattered families, and communities left behind. And let me be clear, this didn't happen by accident. This happened because for 40 years, both parties sold us out with trade deals that helped the rich and hurt the rest. But now we see it for what it is. Right now, the billionaire class is on attack. And the answer is solidarity. They want us divided by job, by race, by region. They want us blaming each other while they laugh all the way to the bank. But when workers stand together, we have the power. When we look out for each other, we build strength. When we tell politicians to pick a side, we make change. Because we're not asking for handouts, we're demanding justice. We're demanding that Congress, Ryan McKenzie, and every other politician show us, are you with the people that build this country, or are you with the ones that bleed it dry? We're demanding that politicians stop standing with the billionaire class and start standing with us, the working class. The billionaires may look like immovable mountains, but mountains move with push. Together, we can win this fight, a fight against oligarchy, because we make the world move. Thank you for your time. Up next is Tom Cedor. He's a retiree from Bethlehem Steel, but more importantly, he's a Navy retiree. Thank you for your service, sir.
Good afternoon. My name's Tom Cedor. I'm a third-generation steelworker on both sides of my family. And also a proud United Steelworkers member, still. We have my own retiree group. I spent over 40 years in the workforce, plus the military, with a Navy vet, full enlistment, and over 30 just as a steel worker, and for decades I've been putting money into Social Security with every paycheck. So now that I'm retired, I depend on that Social Security, as well as I have a very disabled grandson who's 23 who depends on it. I depended on it. My father was killed down there and the furnace blew up. I wasn't even 10 years old, so it's not only retirees, you got to think of the youngsters too. So, and what I like about the Social Security, it's guaranteed, not like your IRA. I don't know if you've been watching the stock market the last 100 days, up and down, and ironically, this thing is looking like it's cracking. I just read yesterday, 3 of our sister plants, used to be owned by Bethlehem Steel, are owned by Cliffs, Cleveland Cliffs. They announced an indefinite shutdown starting in a couple days. So I don't want to have to depend on my IRA, that's for sure. I'm a little bit worried, not a little bit, a lot worried about the Social Security, but these two character billionaires, Donald Trump and Musk, taking a chainsaw at everything. You know, and he's destroying our country's most popular, efficient program. They're laying off thousands of Social Security workers. It's going to be hard to even find anybody to talk to in those offices. It's just terrible. And meantime, they have a lot of problems that they're laying off a bunch for the veterans. And they laid off like 8,000 healthcare workers already. So that's not good either. And then his henchmen are going around playing with our information, our data. Who knows who's going to end up with it? And getting our checks out accurately with all those less people. Who knows what's going to happen? But the answer is that we aren't Trump. Trump and Musk, who will never have to worry about retirement, are intentionally wrecking this thing so that they can get their people in there. They aren't going to come and cut Social Security. They know that's the third rail. So what they're going to do is just ruin it so that they're going to get their golfing buddies or their billionaire buddies to take it over and take big bucks off the top. And to be truthful, I didn't, probably not supposed to say this, but they're already doing it to Medicare by these Advantage plans. being in the retirement group, I'm hearing a lot of negative stuff about these advantage plans, so don't let it happen to Social Security. They're vital benefits, but instead it's long past due to fix this. It's not, you don't have to be a rocket scientist, it's very simple to take this and fix it. Everybody making less than $176,000 a year is paying it. These guys, like Musk, he stops paying it already January 1st at 1 o'clock in the morning. So, but Bernie has a bill, and I think it's long past due. It's called the Social Security Expansion Act. It would make Musk and other billionaires into paying into Social Security all their income, just like the rest of us. So, and it would use that money to increase everyone's Social Security. And together we can defeat these oligarchs that are going to try to loot our Social Security. And my closing remark is who you vote for. They're talking a lot about McKenzie. He's just going to be a rubber stamp. Already, our local, and believe it or not, 50 locals already have endorsed our next, hopefully, Congressman Lamont McClure. He's executive director of Northampton, so hopefully he makes it. Go to McClurePA.com. Now next I'm going to be introducing another Navy vet. Seems like a nice guy, Congressman Chris DeLuzio.
Bethlehem, how we doing? Fired up? All right, I'm Congressman Chris DeLuzio from Western Pennsylvania. If you couldn't tell from the black and yellow, I'm from Steelers country, all right? Little Eagles fans out there? Okay. Look, I represent a tough congressional district. I won it twice in 22 and 24. I will tell you, corporate bosses, the Republican bootlicker politicians, they spent millions trying to beat me. Millions. I didn't have to behave and act like some corporate shill sellout to beat them. That is not our path back to power. The Republicans ran these ads. Oh, they'd call me, they'd say, oh, he's delusional. The Republicans would call me some radical lefty. They call me congressman now. You've got a new congressman here? Anybody seen him? Any town halls? Is he showing up, answering any questions? If you're afraid to hear from your constituents, this ain't the job for you. You heard from your former congresswoman, who I know Susan Wild showed up when she had this job. You're going to hear from a guy from Vermont who's showing up in a little bit. I see the solidarity out there. I'll tell you, I'm a Navy guy. We got some veterans in the crowd tonight. There we go. I fought to organize a union with the steelworkers, and I know labor is in the house tonight. We got labor here? Look, whether you're on a ship, whether you're serving in Iraq, whether you're in an organizing committee, you know the power of solidarity. You know that it doesn't matter where you're from, the color of your skin, how you pray, who you love. We are all in this thing together. Look to the person next to you, to your left and your right. Is that someone whose dignity matters to you? Is that someone whose freedom matters to you? We know the oligarchs, they want to divide us. It doesn't matter whether you're coming from the big city or a mill town, farm country or in the suburbs. We stand together. We fight for the common good. Now, we're not going to let them divide us, are we? Are we going to let them divide us? We're going to stand together? Damn right. The oligarchs in the White House and the boardrooms, though, they know that's a power they can't buy. That's the power that you all have. And that is the power of solidarity. It's in all of us. I see it in the town halls. I see it in the streets. I see it in the picket lines. You feel that strength? That's right. And it is exactly why they want to divide us to do what? So they can plunder our government, funnel tax giveaways to gajillionaires and huge corporations. It is reckless. Are we going to let them do it? No way. And they do it. You know this. They wrap themselves in the flag. You see their ads. They got the stars and stripes everywhere. By the way, wearing made in China MAGA hats half the time. And they try to claim they've got some monopoly on loving this country. It's not patriotic to me to try to cut and kill Social Security. It's not patriotic to me to try to kill veterans' health care in the VA. And it sure as hell wasn't patriotic to pardon January 6th rioters and cop beaters. We should be mad about that. And I'll be honest with you. Donald Trump understood that anger. He saw that wound in the American psyche. What does he offer? Snake oil of hate, division, and autocracy. That's not the way forward. We're here to call out that bullshit. That is not how we go. Your prescription drugs aren't costing you an arm and a leg because of woke culture. That's not what hollowed out factory towns. Finding a house or buying child care is not out of reach because a trans person wants dignity and freedom in the world. That's not it. We're not going to fall for their attempts to divide us on culture wars when they've got a heel to the throats of the American people. We're not going to fall for it. It doesn't have to be like this. It really doesn't. Democrats, we used to take on the robber barons. That's what the New Deal was all about, was power for the people in this country. We broke their chokehold on our politics, and we can do it again. We still have some fight in us, don't we? Anybody here want to just roll over? Who wants to fight? I'll tell you this. When corporate power rips us off, we fight. When the American dream is under attack, we fight. When Donald Trump tramples on our Constitution, we fight. When Elon Musk tries to buy our elections, we fight. You feel that? That is your power, and we have it. We have a way forward, folks. That's the fighting spirit my party needs, to fight for hardworking people and anyone who will hurt us. And we got to make sure that people who work hard got a bigger slice of the pie, and we grow the damn pie. We can do both of these things. I will tell you something that I think we got to fight for. We got to root out this corruption in Washington. Now, I serve in the Congress. We got to ban congressional stock trading right now. You guys know it's outrageous. You're a member of Congress. You get access to sensitive information. And these folks are enriching themselves at the public's expense. We also had to get the goddamn super PAC money out of our elections. No more big corporations and billionaires buying our elections in America. No way. Look, I know you're going to hold the line. That means we got to organize, we got to get loud and stand together. When Republicans tried to rip away the Obamacare, ACA, people all over this country fought back and we held the line. I know we'll do it again when they come for Medicaid, the VA, and Social Security. Let's build an economy that works for everyone, and let's start with taxing the billionaires. No more billionaire handouts, am I right? And we got to have a labor movement that is strong and powerful, and I know there are union workers in the House tonight. Whether you work in a factory, behind the wheel, behind a desk, in a hospital, all hard work has dignity in this country, and we ought to respect that. We ought to make hard work pay off. But we got to take on the villains. We know who they are. It doesn't matter if you call them oligarchs, robber barons, or corporate jagoffs. Gonna bring a little Pittsburgh here. We know who they are. I know which damn side I'm on. Are you with me? I wore the uniform as a young man in my life. I was willing to risk my life for this country. And I will tell you, I see threats to our freedom right here at home. You sense them. You know them. I think we seize this moment to beat back this corporate power and the corruption, to build a more free, more just, and more prosperous America, not for just some, but for all of us. The fight that we're in is a righteous one. It's a fight that we gotta win. Now, there's someone here today who's been waging that righteous fight for a long time. The guy you guys came here to see. The oligarchs hate him. Oh, they really hate him. That tells you something. So I am proud to introduce a guy who doesn't need much of an introduction. Senator from Vermont, Bernie Sanders.
great turnout, but you are loud. I think Trump is hearing you in Mar-a-Lago. And he wants to turn down the volume. But we ain't gonna let him. Well, let me thank all of you for coming out. Let me thank the university for allowing us to use this beautiful facility. Let me thank Augusta Koch and the Messengers for their music. Let me thank Susan Wild and Enid Santiago and Brian Taylor and Tim Herzog and Harbacito for their important statements. And let me thank Congressman Chris Deluzio for doing a great job in Washington and for being here tonight. Now, when I was in college a few years ago, they had a thing called Cliff Notes. They still have it? All right. So in case anybody has a short attention span, I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes of my remarks. First, I'm going to say hello to your Congressman Ryan McKenzie. Now, we are live streaming this event, so Ryan, if you're there, hi. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what has gone on in the last terrible, frightening 100 days under Trump. And then I want to take you on a tour of what's happened, in fact, over the last 50 years and why Trump was elected president and the failures of the Democratic Party to stand up for the working class. And maybe most importantly, because we don't do this at all, I want to talk with you about a vision of where we must go as a nation. Because if there's anything I want to convey to you today is, of course, yes, we must do everything we can to defeat Trumpism, but that is not enough. We are the richest country in the history of the world. And there is no reason why every man, woman, and child in this country does not have a decent standard of living. Brothers and sisters, what I also want to say is that in this unprecedented moment in the modern history of our country and the world, we have got to think in unprecedented ways. We cannot do today what we did yesterday. And that means we need a political revolution in the deepest sense. And that sense understands I'm not Taylor Swift, in case you haven't noticed. We're not here as an entertainment show. We're not here to applaud Bernie or Chris Deluzio. We are here to transform America, and the only way we do it is by transforming ourselves. Democracy is not an entertainment activity. It's not looking at somebody else. It's not a beauty contest. It's not a concert. It is getting active and standing up for the people next to us, the people down the block, and the people across the country. So So we need to be thinking of new ways. And in every part of the country, in every state, it may be a little bit different. But we got to think of new ways as to how we can be more generous, more effective, how we can bring people together to create the kind of nation that you and I know we can become. So let me begin. See, I've already gone on for 10 minutes and I'm beginning. That's what you learn when you're a U.S. Senator. By saying hello to Congressman McKenzie. And let me say this, Mr. Congressman. We are living in very difficult times. And in your district right here and all across this country, millions of working people are struggling to put food on the table. I was just in Harrisburg yesterday. We had a great rally in the evening, and earlier in the day I had some time, and the administrators were kind enough to allow me to go to a couple of schools and talk to some of the kids in Harrisburg. Beautiful kids. And one of the kids, I wanted to hear what was going on in their lives, and one of the kids gets up and says, well, I'm living with my dad now, my parents are separated, but my mom is trying to help out. She's working at 2 jobs right now, and she's looking for a 3rd job. All right? And this is what is in fact going on all over this country. 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. So I say to Congressman McKenzie, you know, and everybody in this room knows or should know, that there is what is called a reconciliation bill in Washington that will be, we think, coming to the floor of the House and Senate in the pretty near future. And what this bill in general does is it would make massive cuts, over $800 billion in Medicaid. It would make massive cuts in nutrition programs, massive cuts to housing. And all of those savings would be used to provide a $1.1 trillion tax break for the richest 1%. So my message to Congressman McKenzie is, don't vote for that terrible piece of legislation. And if you do, I have a strong suspicion you will be a 1-term member of Congress. For a number of years in Vermont and around the country, I talked a lot about our nation moving toward an oligarchic form of society. And there were people who were saying, what does oligarchy mean? What is Bernie talking about? Well, thanks to Donald Trump, we now know what oligarchy is about. When Donald Trump was elected president, and I know it seems like a lot longer time ago, but it was only 100 days, when Trump was elected president, he had behind him 3 of the wealthiest people in America. You remember who those guys were? You had Elon Musk. You know Elon. And he had Mr. Bezos next to him. And he had Mr. Zuckerberg next to him. 3 wealthiest guys in America standing right behind the president. But that wasn't enough. Behind those guys, you had 13 other billionaires that Trump had nominated to become the heads of major federal agencies. You know, right here in Pennsylvania, back in 1863, at that terrible Battle of Gettysburg, where 20,000 Union soldiers were either killed or wounded. A few days later, as you all remember, President Abraham Lincoln came to the battlefield. And he looked at that terrible battlefield where just a few days ago, so many people had died. And he said in so many words, what we believe in is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And what Trump has made perfectly clear, he doesn't hide it. I got to give the guy credit for that. That right now we have a government of the billionaire class, by the billionaire class, and for the billionaire class, and we are not going to accept that. You have an obscenity in the wealthiest guy in the world, running all over Washington, D.C., firing thousands and thousands of dedicated federal employees. At a time when the Social Security Administration doesn't have enough employees right now to service the seniors, they want to throw away, they want to discharge thousands and thousands of people at the Social Security Administration. At a time when the Veterans Administration is understaffed, they want to lay off 83,000 employees at the VA. Well, I don't care if you are Republican, Democrat, or Independent. We stand with the veterans of this country. And we're not going to see a deterioration in their health care or in the benefits that they receive. But it is not just oligarchy that we are dealing with today. We are looking at an unprecedented attack on the foundations of American democracy, and under Trump, a movement toward authoritarianism. You know, the founding fathers of this country were nobody's dummies. You all recall that they had fought and led the fight against the autocratic King of England, the most powerful person on earth at that time. A guy like Trump who thought he had the divine right to rule. And what these guys did, founding fathers, they said, you know what? We see what the autocrat in England is doing, and we're going to have a constitution which provides for separation of powers. Right? You all remember that from history class? So you got an executive branch, the president, a legislative branch, Congress, Senate, and House, and a judiciary of federal courts. And the reason we have that separation of powers is precisely to prevent what Trump is trying to do today. He is usurping the powers, the appropriation powers of the United States Congress. Unbelievably, when a court decision comes down that he doesn't like, he says, we're going to impeach the judge. But it's not only Congress and the judiciary he is going after. Again, in an unprecedented way, he is going after the media. Now, this is a guy who throughout his career has leveled the most savage, vicious attacks on his opponents. Everybody is crazy, everybody is awful, everybody is disgusting, everybody is terrible. And yet, when the media criticizes him, he wants to sue them and shut them down. So we say to Mr. Trump, if you can't accept criticism, get out of the political process. That's what democracy is about. And let me talk a little bit about something that the media doesn't talk about and we don't talk about in Congress at all. And that is the reality that today we have 60% of our people living paycheck to paycheck. We have more income and wealth inequality that we have ever had in the history of the country. And as a result of this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision, we now have a corrupt campaign finance system in which billionaires in both political parties are controlling the political and legislative agenda. And I think this is an issue, whether you're a Republican, progressive, conservative, whatever you may be. Nobody thinks that American democracy is about Elon Musk contributing $270 million to elect Trump and then becoming the most important person in government. So brothers and sisters, when we talk about the future of America and our political system, at the top of our agenda must be the need to end this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. And move to public funding of elections. Now let me tell you something which you're not going to hear much about in the corporate media, and you're not going to hear much about in the halls of Congress. And that is that today, the average American worker in real inflation accounted for dollars is earning less than he or she did 50 years ago. You know why the American people are angry? They're angry because they're looking around them. They're seeing a huge increase in worker productivity. And yet all of that wealth is going to the people on top, not to the working class of this country. And we are here tonight, we're here today to say loudly and clearly that we demand an economy that works for all of us, not just the people on top. And by the way, we need a Democratic Party which makes a fundamental choice. And that is, are you on the side of the working class of this country or not? There are millions of working people whose families used to vote Democratic, and they look and they say, why do we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country? Why is it that I'm working longer hours for low wages? Why is it that I can't afford health care? Why is it that I can't afford my rent or my mortgage? Why is it that I can't afford to send my kid to college? And the Democratic Party is finally going to have to say, we stand with those people. We're prepared to take on the greed of corporate America. But when we talk about the Democratic Party, it is not just domestic issues, and I'm going to get into that in a moment. It is also foreign policy as well. Donald Trump believes that Ukraine started the war with Russia. Well, Mr. Trump, get your history correct. It was Russia and that terrible dictator, Vladimir Putin, that began that war. And we will stand with democracy and not with authoritarian people all over the world. But it's not just the Ukraine. I strongly oppose Biden's continued military support to the horrific Netanyahu war against the people of Gaza. And then the entire infrastructure of Gaza has been destroyed. Right now, as bad as that, and I want you to hear this because this is important, as bad as what Biden has did and what Trump is now doing, Trump has another idea, which is so crazy, so unimaginable that you can't really believe they are seriously talking about it. But what they are talking about today is forcibly expelling 2.2 million Palestinians from their own place of living and converting Gaza into a playground for the rich, a new Riviera for Trump and his friends. We will never allow that to happen. Now, I work in the U.S. Senate, so I'm around people who are able to talk more and say less than any group of human beings in the history of the world. So when we talk about where we want to go as a nation, we have got to talk with some specificity, not in general terms. And what I'm begging of you is when you hear candidates who want your vote, be tough on them. Ask them hard questions. Are they unequivocally prepared to reject corporate PAC funding? At a time when billionaires have enormous power in both parties, are they prepared to work vigorously to overturn Citizens United? Today in America, the top wealthiest person in this country, if you can believe it, owns more wealth than the bottom 53% of households. You got that? One guy. Top 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 93%. CEOs now make 350 times more than their average workers. So these people on top, they are very religious people. But it's a strange kind of religion. You know, all of the major religions on earth speak in one way or another about doing unto others as you would like them to do unto you, right? Christianity, Judaism, Islam, whatever. Kind of that's the heart and soul of many major religions. What the religion of these oligarchs is greed, greed, and more greed. And that greed is destroying our country. We got to stand up to it and end it. So it is not just about not giving them massive tax breaks that Trump wants. It's about telling these large corporations and billionaires they are going to start paying their fair share of taxes. All over America, workers want to join unions. They want to join unions because they know that when you're in a union, you can negotiate decent wages, working conditions, and benefits. But employers know that too. And they're making it harder and harder for workers to join unions. That's why we need to pass legislation that punishes any employer who denies workers the constitutional right to form a union. Here in Pennsylvania and in many parts of this country, there are workers earning starvation wages. Millions of workers all over America. Shamefully, the federal minimum wage remains at $7.25 an hour. Can you believe that? Nobody in America can live on $7.25 an hour. That is why we got to raise that federal minimum wage to at least $17 an hour. As I mentioned, I was in Harrisburg yesterday talking to some kids, and many of them want to be able to go to college, go to graduate school. A young lady wanted to be a pediatrician. Somebody wanted to be a psychologist. Others wanted to be construction workers, get the training they need to do the work this country desperately needs. But they were all worried about whether or not they could afford to go to college and the huge kind of debt they would assume if they did go to college. We need the best educated workforce in the world. We need more doctors, we need more nurses, we need more mental health counselors, we need more electricians, sheet metal workers, carpenters. Young people should not have to go into a lifetime of debt in order to get the education they need and our country needs from them. 22% of seniors in America, the richest country on earth, are living on $15,000 a year or less. Can you believe that? Try being a senior living on $15,000. Try being anybody living on $15,000. Some Republicans want to cut Social Security. We are not going to cut Social Security. We're going to expand Social Security by lifting the cap on taxable income. The United States of America today is the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a human right. We spend over $14,000 per person on health care, and yet we got 85 million Americans uninsured, underinsured. Over 60,000 die each year because they can't get to a doctor on time. The function of health care is not to make billions for drug companies and insurance companies. The function of a rational healthcare system is to provide quality care to every man, woman, and child. We're going to do that through a Medicare for all single-payer program. of this country, Pennsylvania, Vermont, and all locations, we are suffering a major housing crisis. You got 20 million people spending 50% or more of their limited incomes on housing. You got 800,000 people sleeping out on the streets. Instead of spending $1 trillion on the military, how about building 5 million units of low-income and affordable housing? So, brothers and sisters, this is a difficult moment in American history. But we have had difficult moments in our history before, and I have every confidence that if we are prepared to reject what Trump and his friends want to do, and that is divide us up, get us to hate each other for whatever reason, the color of our skin, or where we were born, or our sexual orientation. If we stand together around an agenda that speaks for working people, there is nothing that can stop us. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, the oligarchs, they are enormously powerful. They have unlimited amounts of money, they control the political process, they own the media, they own the economy. That's a lot of power. But what I believe...
So there you have it, guys. Bernie Sanders doing what he does best from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And as you can hear, there's been a lot of energy this afternoon from the 4,000 or so people here fighting for everything that working people deserve, not just here, but in Palestine and all over the world. John and I are going to try to get ahead of the crowd so we can talk to people as they're leaving the rally. So do hang tight. We are not going anywhere, and we'll see you guys in just a few minutes.
This is just a small part of what we're trying to do. We're trying to get you and others to start running for office. We need candidates from school board to Congress. We need help in growing the trade union. We need organizations on campus dealing with climate and other important issues. So let today be the beginning. At the end, let us go forward. And in the very, very difficult times, make sure that our grandchildren and those who come after them look back at this moment and say, we stood up, we had the courage, we took on our right.
You guys can hear tons of energy from the, again, at least 4,000 people that are here today in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, to see Bernie Sanders fight the oligarchy tour. Again, if you're on the live stream, please hang tight. We are going to make our way outside so that we can talk to working people about what they thought of the rally and how things are going in their lives in just a minute. As you guys can see, there's a sort of, fenced-off area where there's a bunch of, a handful of pro-Palestine protesters. During Bernie Sanders' speech, there were several pro-Palestine protesters were removed, and we are posting that on our social media, so take a look. Again, everybody's filtering out now. I think there was probably about 4,000 people there who had a lot of energy for Bernie Sanders and his message of fighting the oligarchy and doing our best to win the class war that is being waged against all of us working people. So we're going to try to make our way to where everyone is heading toward the parking lot and talk to some people as they're leaving the rally.
Grab people as they come out here.
Okay.
And then we'll go talk to the Palestine.
Excuse me. We are here trying to talk to people about why they came out for Bernie Sanders today. Would you guys mind speaking with us? We're with Status Coup News.
She can't be on camera.
Never mind. Oh, no, you're good.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Excuse me. We're with Status Coup News. We're trying to get a sense of why people came out to see Bernie today. Would you guys mind talking with us?
Sure, why not?
Cool. Give us 2 seconds. Actually, let's...
John. You want to talk? We'd love to talk with you.
Okay, so I am here speaking with John about why he came out to see Bernie Sanders today and explain what you're here to basically be in support of.
So I came out to see Bernie Sanders today because I support what he stands for. I support fighting the oligarchy that's in power right now.
Absolutely. And why Medicaid saves lives, hands off Medicaid, is that something that has affected your life personally? Is that why you showed up for this?
That's one of the reasons I showed up for it. It absolutely affected my life. I have a lot of family members who are in need of Medicaid and who are relying on Medicaid right now, so it is something I absolutely stand for.
Absolutely. And do you feel like Bernie Sanders and our progressives are doing enough to fight for Medicaid right now, where we know in a moment that social services like Medicaid are scheduled to be cut?
I do think there's a lot more that needs to be done with the administration that we have right now, so I think that he is trying to fight for what's right. So if he continues that, I think that we can save Medicaid.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, John. Appreciate it. Have a good one. All right. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Just give me 2 seconds.
Yep. I'd like to speak. Yeah. So you're not looking at the sun.
All right. That's better. All right, sorry about that, guys. Pennsylvania apparently has tons of pollen, and my allergies that I didn't know that I had before this are really bad. So apologies for that, but we are going to speak with another attendee today. Hi. Can you tell us why you're here and why you felt it was important to show up for Bernie Sanders today?
Yeah, I was a former volunteer for Bernie, both campaigns, and I'm very disappointed in his political stance on Palestine, and I don't think he has done enough to oppose the genocide. I don't think he has done enough to challenge the actual party structure of America.
Absolutely. And, for people who are watching the live stream, I don't know if you were able to see this, but we did post this on our socials. Several pro-Palestine protesters were removed from the stadium during Bernie Sanders' speech. So clearly you are not the only person who feels that way. And I did notice that as far as crowd energy goes, him talking about Palestine actually did get what I would say was probably the best response from the crowd. So again, you are not the only person who feels that way. Would you mind going into more of your specific critiques on his stance on Palestine, or what you would like to see him doing?
Specifically, I understand that this is one of Bernie's weakest points, that he has a cultural background with the State of Israel, and he has a very long political career where he's made a lot of different statements. But this has gone far and beyond any kind of, religious affiliation or anything. This is human rights abuses. I don't consider myself to have any bigoted opinions about Jewish people, but I consider myself a Christian, and I'm incredibly offended at how Christian monuments have been desecrated in the Palestine area. This is the city of Bethlehem. Our sister city in Palestine has had historic monuments from the Bible completely destroyed, and it's a world cultural loss. It shouldn't be allowed in any democratic country, and this show that Bernie puts on is great when we live under a democracy, but clearly that's not what we're moving into. So he has to change his messaging, and he's failing to do that.
Absolutely. Is there anything else that you would want to add about the fight for a free Palestine? Anything about working people? I mean, the whole of the Fight the Oligarchy tour, a lot of what we're hearing are working people's struggles right now in this moment, not just here but in Palestine as well, because those are working people too. So anything else that you would want to add about any of that?
Well, there's a 50% unemployment rate in Palestine right now. I think it's
kind of incredible that is as high as it actually is.
And that goes into, you can't get food if you can't work to make money in our current system. Bernie brought a lot of local politicians from the Lehigh Valley area. Lehigh Valley only is relevant, last November and whenever there's a big election, because it's a swing state. But all the other times, we don't get a lot of attention. Bernie brings these people on stage. He brings up our Congress people, but he doesn't mention John Fetterman, who's signed bombs. He doesn't mention Josh Shapiro, who's signed bombs that were sent to Israel. And they say that they want Medicaid for all, but they don't say where our Medicaid money is going. It's not going into the zillionaires' hands, as the congressperson said today, but it's going to bombs in Israel to profit the military-industrial complex, to profit Lockheed Martin, and to profit different companies like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you speaking with us.
Absolutely.
Have a good rest of your rally.
Stephen, I guess.
Thank you, Stephen. Yeah. Appreciate it. Yep. All right. We are going to talk to more people at Bernie Sanders' Fight the Oligarchy rally, so stay tuned with us.
Hey, oh my God. It made us throw it out. Stuffed it in here.
Hey, Status Coup. I've been watching you guys for years at this point.
Oh, nice to meet you. Would you want to talk about why you're here today? We're going around interviewing people right now to figure everyone showed up.
It's probably not a good idea for me. I'm a federal employee at that point, so. Yep. Yeah, but I will say this at that point. You can put it on whatever that point will be on this point, whatever you get at that point. Like, you can just say this. Democratic leadership. You have lost to the equivalence of Democratic leadership. You have lost to the equivalence of the Colorado Rockies twice. You have gone. You need actual leadership. Like, you saw how packed that was during with 6,000 people in that entire thing at that point. And I've been following this thing since 2016. That's all that I got to say at that point. If leadership doesn't do anything at this point, and I've been saying this since 2016, Democratic leadership was so far to the right that they were essentially like Reagan Republicans. We're now at the point where they're at George Bush Republicans at this point. So I've been following Bernie since 2016, actually before that, actually. So when I see people that actually have this, when I see people who actually have a vision for who that part, they actually believe in who he is at that point, and the best way I can describe it at that point, all these people in that part, I live near the Lehigh Valley also in that part, many of these people are independent voters. They would have voted for Bernie at that point, but they felt so desperate. They felt so desperate at that point that they want to go, that they would gamble on Trump at that point. Now, granted, I disagree with them on everything at that point, but they have but I'm not going to blame them on that point since the Democratic Party has given them no reason to vote for them at that point. So Democratic leadership, they need to do everything they can. Democratic leadership, you see the energy right there. You see what you need to do. If you guys lose this, if you guys lose the next line, that part, like, y'all are gone at this point.
For sure, and I think, to your point, the Democrats lost because they weren't offering anything material to working people who have been struggling for a long time. It's not just these last 3 months where people have been struggling. It was long before that, which is again how I believe we wound up with Trump.
Right, and exactly, and people, you look at all the policy issues that the Democratic Party, at that part, Bernie Sanders, everyone agrees on those policies except for, the higher up, Democrat at that point. If you go down, Bethlehem at that point, where the main complaint is a whole bunch of, apartments that are building up, and not even, low-income apartments. They're, the luxury apartments in that part, which, ironically enough, one of them caught on fire yesterday at that point before y'all got here at that point. So, I don't know what happened, but somehow that ended up happening. So, people can't afford to live out. People can't afford to live out there. People can't afford to live anywhere at that point. And I've seen people that are paying, the new apartment that they built over there. It's $2,000 for, just a studio apartment at that point. So I'm what?
That's, New York City prices.
Oh, no, that's an understatement. That's Northern Virginia prices at this point. All right, and so, yeah, when people are desperate for change at that point, they'll go to a demagogue at that point, which the energy that you see in that part, everyone that you saw for policy issues, they all agree with everything that happens at that point for everything that they want to have. And that's the way that I see it at this point, where if Democrats do not do anything after this year, if they do not follow with the energy of the Democratic Party, you're going to get somebody and continuously fail. They're going to get somebody worse than Trump. And before people say, there's nobody worse than Trump, we said the same thing about George Bush. And look at where we're at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's all really well said. Is there anything else that you would want to add about, working people in this area too? I mean, we went to the Mack truck facility earlier today, where it was announced a couple of weeks ago that there are going to be 250 to 350 people laid off. So, people are hurting, and as you said, for federal workers, if you haven't already been laid off or you're, haven't been furloughed, there is a fear that is going to happen. So again, any other closing thoughts about any of that?
Oh, no, I can tell you that straight up at that point, because I knew people who were federal workers at that point, and many of them, they just got off. They were just in their probationary period. You've heard the whole story about the probationary employees. Some of which were at the trainees. So the moment that they announced the probationary employees, they were kicked the can at that point. People are taking deferred resignation at that point. People are taking the early retirement. So I'm so by the end of that point, what federal employees are going to be work after that point? And now I have phone calls from friends at that point. They're worried that even though they're still working, the whole rift situation that's happening at the part, they're going to be afraid that they're going to be on the chopping block. The next on the chopping block at that point.
Absolutely, and that doesn't, we are in a moment where we're kind of facing down a recession because of tariffs. We know that store shelves are going to start emptying out if they haven't already started emptying out, because in some places they actually have. So, you take all of those things in its totality, combined with all of the cuts to social services, and then add, people are worried that they're going to leave their jobs. For the president who was elected on a promise of improving the lives of working people, it doesn't sound from anyone that I've spoken to that they feel like their lives are improving in any way.
Right, and that's the thing in that part, because he mentioned Mack at that part, where I'm not sure if this is new at this point, but there was a talk about the Mack trucking companies. They're laying off workers at that point, which if you look at Lehigh Valley at that point, there's a whole bunch of truck industry truck drivers around here at that point, so they're on the chopping block at that point. And so it's not only the public employees that are getting laid off at that point. It's starting to get into the private sector as well in that point. And the fact of the matter, and the fact of the way that I see it at this point, the fact that we're getting a recession before Grand Theft Auto 6 is probably a testament of everything that's happening at this point.
I think you're probably right. And again, to just add a little bit to your point, we have more private sector workers that get laid off every month than we've seen the mass layoffs of these federal workers. So it's we have like twin crises of layoffs going on, and they will continue to go on, and hopefully the layoffs of federal workers will also draw attention to the private sector workers that are being laid off now and will continue to be laid off. Thank you so much for speaking with us. This was great. Thank you.
Pleasure, man. And
Pleasure.
Pleasure. I've been watching your videos for the past 8 years at this point.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. All right, and you're probably not going to see a lot of conversations like that on corporate media from people who are watching to hear what other working people are going through. So if you can, please do consider becoming a paid subscriber to Status Coup. You can do that at statuscoup.com/join. Again, you can do it for as little as $5 a month. It takes a lot for us to go out to, travel across Pennsylvania, following Bernie, watching his Fight the Oligarchy tour, and John and I are having a great time. We want to be able to do more of this for you guys. So if you can, do support us at statuscoup.com/join. And we are going to go around and talk to some more people outside of Bernie Sanders' Fight the Oligarchy tour in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
If you want to go over there for a while.
Yes.
That's no cold water.
All right, John and I are going to go talk to the pro-Palestine protesters who are in this, again, little weird fenced-off area across the street.
I'll wait till you get somebody. I'm going to film some of it.
Okay.
5, 6, 7, 8. Israel is a terrorist state.
Genocide in Netanyahu did not start the genocide in Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Day one started the genocide.
Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Brick by brick, wall by wall, brick by brick, wall by wall. Occupation, stop the
So we are live already. As you guys know, we are at Bernie Sanders' Fight the Oligarchy tour in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and there is this fenced-off area across the street from the stadium where Bernie was speaking, where there's pro-Palestine protesters. So we want to see why you guys are here. Why are you guys here? Also, were you specifically told to set up across the street over here?
So this caged-off area was already prepared for any counter-protesters. So when they saw our Palestine flag, they immediately put us here and said that we were protesters. But this is just free speech. This is us just advocating for changes in the Bernie Sanders, as a senator. Just a few months ago, he signed a bill with AOC, $1 billion being sent towards the Iron Dome in Israel, and also supporting the Biden and Harris administration in sending 2,000-pound bombs. So Bernie Sanders has always been a supporter of Israel, and he continues to condemn Netanyahu, but he does not condemn the state itself, nor does he condemn U.S.'s complicity in this and his own complicity. He just instead tries to take advantage of the fact that everyone is suffering under Trump's administration to say that he's for the people. But he's truly not for the people if he's continuing to send these bombs, continue sending money to Israel, and continuing to not listen to constituents that are asking him to please take a stand for Palestinians and take a stand against protesters who are advocating for Palestine. And instead he says that he advocates for free speech, but you see where we are right now. We're across the street. We got kicked out. He definitely doesn't stand for free speech.
I mean, yeah, there were several protesters, pro-Palestine protesters who were removed during the speech, which again, we've posted on our socials, so if people are interested, they can go see that there. I mean, I guess, being in there watching the speech, I don't know how much of it you were able to see. I assume you were out here the whole time.
Yeah, I was there for probably 20 minutes of him talking, and then that's when I actually started speaking when he discussed that the American dream is, having housing, having equal health care, and having money being in our communities. And I found this very hypocritical for him to say when just the other day he sent $1 billion. So yeah, that's when I decided I needed to speak up, and that was the time for me to speak up.
I appreciate that. And, so further into his speech, he did make mention of Palestine and, said that we are not going to allow Trump to, implement his insane plan of turning Palestine into, selling it off so that we can buy it and develop it, whatever he's talking about. So there was a pretty good response from the crowd in there, from people who clearly feel the same way that you guys do, that we are in support of working people everywhere, not just here, but working people in Palestine as well. I guess I would ask how you feel about that and him kind of, just him talking about that in general, given the way that his votes have gone.
It's really a fallacy. Him saying that he's for the people and for the working class. It's a fallacy if you're continuing to send bombs and use our tax dollars in this way. He's always been a supporter of F-35 jets as well, specifically, and the American military industry. He's always been a supporter of this. He's never decided that one of his stance would be defunding the military. He's always supported actually funding it more. And he actually supported Biden and Harris in all of their endeavors in sending more money to Israel. Just recently, it was revealed that Biden and Harris, their administration never told Israel to do a ceasefire. It was ended up being a lie, and a general in Israel actually admitted this, that they are proud that the U.S. Never told them to do a ceasefire. So Bernie Sanders was aware of this. He has supported the administration in this as well, and his words of calling for a ceasefire was really just a fallacy.
I mean, I guess I would want to ask, have you been a Bernie supporter up until this point? What is your kind of history of support for him and with his left flank of electoralism?
Yeah, so growing up, I was a supporter of Bernie Sanders. A lot of us here are. We believe that any politician can change, but to do that, it takes criticism, it takes standing up against them, it takes taking constituent comments as well. We were protesting against the Biden and Harris administration. I think a big misconception was that we were against the Democrats, that we don't want democracy, that we wanted Trump to win. But instead, we kept on demanding that if you want the blue to win, you need to make these changes, because our people are literally being massacred every single day. So with Bernie Sanders specifically, I've always been a supporter of his Medicaid for all stance on healthcare and his stance on education for all as well, and just lowering the cost of this, the living costs. But for him to also just be like every other administration before him, supporting Israel and everything, and not condemning that this is a genocide, continuing to deny that this is a genocide as well, it speaks volumes, and it just shows that we need to stand up right now before it's too late.
Absolutely. And what would you like to see Bernie Sanders do in the future, and the progressives that represent us?
Defund Israel, divest, stop sending our tax dollars to Israel to fund a military complex that has nothing to do with the U.S. It only increases the U.S. imperialism across the world. All walls have got to go from Mexico to Palestine. Listen to your constituents, listen to the people. The majority of America wants a ceasefire. We've been wanting a ceasefire, and the ceasefire has never been implemented because of Israel. Continuous violations of the ceasefire. We want the aid to get entered. We want your pressure on Israel. We need you to condemn the entity of Israel. We need you to stand up and stop lessening your words and denying that this is a genocide. This is much more than a massacre. This is much more than a Holocaust. This is much more than just the killing of our people. This is the erasure of an entire population.
Absolutely. Is there anything else that you would want to share with viewers of Status Coup about any of this, about, standing up for working people, not just here in the U.S., but all over the world?
Being part of the working class, I think a lot of people have this misconception when we come out to protest that we're against the left. But rather, it's not left versus right, it's up versus down. And I know Bernie Sanders agrees with this too, with his whole stance on the working class standing up. But you can't be up versus down if you're still supporting Zionism. You can't.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for talking with me. This was great.
Thank you so much.
Have a great one. Absolutely. All right, guys.
Israel is a terrorist state. Free Palestine. Wall by wall, brick by brick, wall by wall, occupation got to fall, occupation got to fall, brick by brick, wall by wall, brick by brick, wall by wall, occupation got to fall, occupation got to fall.
Joe Biden, the man who wrote the 94 crime bill.
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine! We got Donald Trump a second time because we just had 4 years who are
She chose text.
That's really that. That is really 100%. I will give you that. There's not even an argument on that. These people who voted for
Israel and the USA!
Don't know about that. I know. You think illegal immigrants are in this election illegal? I think you're no one has been people who are related to those people who are friends of those people. But you just said the people who are being deported already. Relatives. The women.
All right, we're going to talk to some more protesters over here, but it is kind of important to point out that Bernie has routinely proposed bills to cut off U.S. funding for Israel, and he is still the only elected Democrat who has done so. So it's important to note that when we're taking this whole conversation in its totality. So we're going to talk to some more protesters, and then we are going to see if there's anyone else around who is outside of this fenced area where pro-Palestine protesters are before we head out. And John's going to change his battery before we do this.
It's okay. You can be a douche if you want. I'll still shake your hand. I always like having conversations around other people. You know, it's good for us to hear both sides. There's more people here than there were 4 years ago. I've been standing up against the actions of Israel for over 2 decades.
Israel is a terrorist state.
Still growing.
Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Free Palestine.
Always ready to talk.
Okay, cool. So we're with Status Coup News, and we wanted to see why.
Down here, you can come up there.
Oh, sure. As long as I'm not like staring into the sun, that's a little bit better. Thank you. So again, we're with Status Coup News. Just trying to get a sense of why everyone's first of all at the Bernie Sanders Fight the Oligarchy tour, and there's a fenced area right in front where pro-Palestine protesters have been. So we wanted to see why people are out here protesting. So what brought you out over here?
Well, primarily I came out here because I appreciate Bernie Sanders being willing to call out the Democrats for their inaction on things and on their action on other things. And so I do support at least some of the things he came. And I was in there for much of the rally. I also came out here because I support the people of Palestine in their self-determination that they should have had decades ago. I'm happy to see that the tide is turning and there's more and more people paying attention. 10 years ago, when the boycott stuff was really starting to go, no one paid attention to it. It's taken some horrible genocidal actions for that to change, but it is changing. People here in this country are becoming aware of what their tax dollars are doing, and they're starting to demand a change to that. And any chance I can add my voice into that call to stop using our tax dollars to commit genocide and enslave people around the world, I will.
Absolutely. So you were inside, obviously, as you're saying, this movement has been growing. There were several protesters who were pro-Palestine protesters who were removed from the stadium when Bernie was speaking. I guess I would ask how you feel about Bernie's actions as far as the genocide on Gaza has gone so far. Are there things that you would criticize him on? What would you like to see him doing going forward?
I certainly would criticize him. I think he is starting to go somewhere with this stuff, but it's very late in the game for him to change his opinions on these things. And he's still focused just on Netanyahu. He's not focused on this being the actions of Israel that have continued throughout numerous administrations.
Absolutely. And again, what else would you like to see him doing? So he has funded, tried to get past bills to remove funding for Israel. What else would you like to see Bernie Sanders doing?
I would like to see him call out more, both not just our funding of Israel, but our funding of military regimes around the world. And I would also like to see him call out Israel as a state for its actions and not trying to blame it on one person. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Are there any other thoughts you would want to share about, just being here? We're talking about the struggle of working people. That's a lot of what we hear, at these rallies and these speeches. Is there anything else you would want to share about the struggle of working people in this country as well as, working people in Palestine?
Sure. I'd just like to say that I actually like Donald Trump because for the first time in a long time, people are coming out and actually standing up and resisting to things. And he's pulling the pendulum so far that it will swing back our way. And without something pulling it that direction, we're going to be stuck in this horrible, liberal, pro-war enslavement that we've pretended is the left for entirely too long.
So, that's an interesting thing. So you would say that you appreciate that he's kind of drawn attention to these things that under the, status quo prior to Trump, we had all been kind of ignoring.
Yes, definitely. And that's been an ongoing problem. When George Bush was in power, we had tens of thousands of people marching against the war in Iraq. As soon as Obama took office, there was no one there anymore. There was a handful of us who would still go out to events. When their team was in office, the Democrats just walk away from civil rights issues, from anti-war issues, from labor rights issues. And they have been just as much a pro-corporate tool as the Republicans have for decades.
For sure. And I think it's, we've talked with a lot of people about how they've been faring and all of this. And I think that, part of why the Democrats actually lost is because they were not taking stock of how working people were feeling, that the status quo was not actually working for working people. And that is how we wound up with Trump to begin with.
Oh, definitely. The Democrats just recently at their rebuttal to the State of the Union address admitted that they are the party of Reagan. Today's Democrats are Ronald Reagan Republicans. And because they have become that, they've lost the working class.
Absolutely. Are there any other thoughts you want to share before we close this out with Status Coup viewers?
I think I got just about everything in. All I can say is that people in general need to start looking beyond the Democratic Party and find that there is an actual worldwide left wing that is not a bunch of center-right liberals. And we need to build that here in the United States and take this country back.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for talking with me. This is great.
You're welcome.
Have a good day. All right, guys, we are going to walk away from, again, this area where they sort of have the pro-Palestine protesters partitioned off. And we're going to anyone else that's kind of hanging around after the Bernie Sanders rally in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, who wants to talk about working people and why they came out to support today.
So I realized they knew they were strangers. They need to be
I'm lost. I can't find my car.
Well, you're not doing all that. I'm sorry.
No.
While you are waiting for your car, would you want to talk with Status Coup News about
Sure.
I won't take up too much of your time since you are waiting to find your car.
So Status Coup, I think I've heard of you.
Oh yeah, cover a lot of like protests and rallies, that kind of thing. We're always out on the ground. You can find us on YouTube. So if you search Status Coup on YouTube, you'll find our whole body of work there. But yeah, so I'm Ashley, by the way.
Hi.
Hi, Emily. Nice to meet you. So, again, we are at the Bernie Sanders rally in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, where Bernie's holding his Fight the Oligarchy rally today. And we were just trying to get a sense of why people came out. So why did you come out today to fight the oligarchy?
Well, just probably for every reason that everybody else came out to. Making sure that all groups have an equal opportunity to really thrive in our society. I mean, and that is the basic. So that's why I came out.
Absolutely. And, I've been asking a lot of people this question, and I'll ask this of you, too. We are all working people here. And how are you faring? How are you and your family faring under Trump and previous to that?
I am doing okay. I think I'm one of the more lucky few people, but looking around and seeing kind of what's in store for my kids who are in their 20s and what the future might look like, and also just the unfairness of everything that's happening right now, the massive economic inequality, and also I think also kind of the fact that there's been a lot of trying to divide people in the working class, and so there's been too much hate, and so that's also why I want to kind of be more about solidarity.
Absolutely. And you said, you have kids in your 20s who you're worried about their future. Do you think that the Democrats are doing enough to, never mind standing up for democracy? That is all great, and we should be doing that. But are they doing enough to actually improve the material lives of people like your kids and the rest of us?
I would say no. And I thought that was going to be the case when Citizens United passed, and, anyone who could get large corporate donations, would be able to get into positions of power and get bought off, let's be honest. So I think in a lot of ways the Democrats have kind of lost their way since the FDR days.
Absolutely, and it's been quite a few years between then and now. And I guess I would ask, so we are all here at the Bernie Sanders rally. What can we do to kind of carry this momentum forward? So it is great that we're all gathered here, and it's great that people have been marching and protesting and rallying. What else can we do beyond this to do the things that you say we need to do so that we can improve people's material livelihoods?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question. I think that there has to almost be a heart change with people who are in this movement to dedicate to standing up for someone that may not be like them, and really kind of make that the new culture.
Absolutely.
So that's not really a concrete thing, but it's more of a heart change.
I appreciate that, and I've heard a similar sentiment from other people that we need to start valuing kindness in this country and empathy and caring for each other.
Yeah, and being able to listen to what it is that different groups need to be able to come on board and come together, not feel like, I have all the answers, but, people whose lived experience is a lot more on the ground and dire are the ones that, need to be able to be heard and safely. And I think the thing that's unfortunate right now is a lot of them don't feel safe. There were not a lot of people of color that came out to this rally.
And I think that's kind of telling, too, about the state of the country right now. And I guess I would also want to ask, what do you think about people doing things like organizing. You know, we're talking about protesting, rallying, marches. Should people be organizing their workplaces and starting unions? Should people be organizing economic boycotts, doing things of that nature, starting tenants unions so that we can fight back in a way that...
I'm thinking maybe all of it. You know, and it's going to have to be, for now, very, very decentralized. I understand, and I know that this is in 2008. I realize there's a general work strike across the board. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I think the fact that that was put far into the future, you know, I think that momentum has to happen. I think I'm going to kind of put this in sort of corny terms. When my daughter was little, we used to watch the movie Bug's Life all the time. Like, I almost memorized it. And the whole theme of that is, you know, there's 99 ants to one grasshopper. And so when it all clicked that, you know, all we have to do is do this together and not be afraid. I think it's being able to push through fear, number one, and being willing to be a voice for the person that's not like you. So, but I think this concrete stuff that you mentioned, absolutely.
For sure. And as you said, we all need to embody the sentiment of being an ant and fighting against the grasshoppers. And I think that's all great. Is there anything else that you would want to share with Status Coup viewers?
No, I don't think so.
You covered a lot of ground while you are waiting to find your car.
Yes, I'll have to figure it out. But, you know, at least I got my walk in and it's beautiful weather, so.
It is. Thank you so much for speaking with us. Sure. This was great.
Okay, now do you, are you a print media or online media?
We are online.
Okay.
We are online. We do mostly video, and you can find us on YouTube at Status Coup.
Okay. All right. I will
Cool.
look for you.
Awesome.
I've been following mostly the Bucks, because I'm from Bucks County. I've been following the Bucks County Beacon on their social media. So, yeah.
Awesome.
They're a great outfit, too. I'm so glad that there seems to be like this new growth of local media, which is so needed.
Absolutely. Local media is super important. So thank you again. We appreciate you talking with us. Have a good rest of your day. I hope you find your car soon.
So do I.
All right, guys.
Yeah,
Hey.
watching your stream. Who are you guys?
Oh.
Questions you were asking.
Cool. Yeah, we are happy to talk. Sorry. I'm Ashley, by the way.
Actually, Maria.
Maria, nice to meet you. So what brought you out here today? We are, again, at Bernie Sanders' The Oligarchy Tour in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. So why are you here?
A few reasons. One of the reasons why I got involved in organizing was because of Bernie Sanders. I was a college student in 2015 and living in Manhattan, barely able to afford where I was living, paying for college. I was waitressing in Hell's Kitchen. I was nannying at one point, living with a wealthy family just to be able to afford housing. And when Bernie was talking about free college, canceling student debt, to me that just made sense. So I started knocking doors back in my hometown in East Stroudsburg, and I started having conversations with folks about what they were being impacted by, and realized like a lot of us share a lot of the same struggles. And I realized the story I've been told as a kid, if you just work hard, go to college, get a good job, you'll live a great life. I realized that that was just a story told to us to not be aware of really the powers that be, aka billionaires, extracting resources for us. So, long story short, I started to organize in my community. I moved back to Pennsylvania, and everyday people who wanted to see Bernie elected in the past, we started to talk to people about what changes they can make in their community. And ultimately, I helped to start a local organization up in Scranton called NEPA Stands Up, or NEPA Stands Up. And we're part of a state organization, Pennsylvania Stands Up. So it was really important to me that not only do we show up to come together to say we're going to fight oligarchy, but we do much more than that. So we had volunteers show up from Lehigh Valley Stands Up, our Lehigh Valley chapter, and they were signing up people that are interested in organizing here in the Lehigh Valley, because we can't just show up for presidential years, we can't just show up for rallies, we got to organize in our communities. So I heard you earlier ask, like, what can we do now, right? Like, what are we going to do tomorrow and the next week? And it's really clear to me we need to be in community with one another. Do you know the person on your block? Do you know your neighbors? And And we need to start having harder conversations, right? Especially like white folks, we need to start having real conversations about what does it mean to stand in solidarity? What does it mean when ICE is literally disappearing people? What does it mean when they're now they're deporting U.S. citizens, right? Because if someone who's undocumented doesn't have a right to due process, that means that I don't have a right to due process, because who's to say that they can't disappear a U.S. citizen and then not go through due process and even know that they're a citizen? So there's a lot of rights that are under attack, and we need to do more than just say we want to fight, right? We need to do more than just mobilize, but we need to get really clear of like, what are we trying to win here? So actually on Monday, if anyone here is in Pennsylvania, Monday we're rallying, Pennsylvania Stands Up, SEIU, many labor organizations. We're rallying at the Capitol steps in Harrisburg to demand that we raise the wage, because in Pennsylvania it is the same as the federal minimum wage, which is $7.25. And after that, we are also having a rally for immigrants' rights, because our Governor Josh Shapiro, can work to make sure that ICE and the police do not cooperate. There's a whole list of demands that we have for the governor to defend immigrants and defend our neighbors. So that's why I'm here.
That is great. I loved hearing your whole story, and it's a lot of what we've talked to people about. You were struggling, and you realize that other working people are also struggling the same way. I mean, your story reads very similar to my own story. So I completely understand, and that's why I'm out here doing this work, because it's important for us all to stand up for other working people, and even if we are not struggling in the same way that the person next to us is struggling, we need to be standing up for all of it, because, attacks on working people in any way are attacks on all of us and our rights, as you said. And I talked to a lot of people who kind of, as you said, they go, well, we're going to the protests, we're going to the rallies, but the what's next seems to be kind of elusive to people. So you have already done the what's next. You figured out how to do that. So do you have any advice for anyone who's watching this who feels like everything is going to shit, essentially? They know things are wrong, but they don't know how to get started. They feel like, I'm not an activist. I'm not an organizer. That seems like something other people do. How can those people get engaged at the grassroots level in the way that you did?
That is a great question, and it's a question we should all be asking ourselves. There is a role for absolutely everyone in the movement, whether that's creating a community garden, whether that's creating a shared library, or moving beyond just posting on social media, although that's really important too. But something that you can do is search, literally Google search in your neighborhood, mutual aid. Search organization, local nonprofit, right? There's so many ways you can just like look out and see what's of interest to you. Think about one thing that you care about. Is it immigrants' rights? Is it food security? Is it raising the wage? Is it unionizing your workplace? Right? You can unionize your workplace. Find one thing that you care about and figure it out. Our organization, we had someone show up at a meeting because they just Googled mutual aid. And while we don't focus on mutual aid, that was incredible that they brought them to us. And so they started door knocking with us to talk about organizing. We're trying to organize for tenants' rights in Berks County. And ultimately, even beyond just finding something that is important to you, I just want to encourage people that we can't wait for other people to save us. It is up to us. And the billionaires want us to think that we don't have the power to do anything, and the only thing we can do is yell and scream. But yelling and screaming, that's important. We need that energy. But what we also need is to understand that we have power individually and even more power collectively. So whether that means running for office, which, you can run for school board. I'm telling you, I've been in the halls of Harrisburg. I've been in the halls and I have been so deeply unimpressed. And I always tell people, if Trump can run for office, you can run for office. Imposter syndrome is real, especially for women, especially for people of color. So we've got to realize that building power isn't just about getting money. Building power is about organizing people.
Absolutely. That was all great. I would ask you another question, but I feel like that is the perfect spot to stop. Thank you so much, Maria.
Thank you. Check
and
us
I
out.
hope
PA Stands Up. PennsylvaniaStandsUp.org. PAStandsUp.org.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And you guys heard Maria. That is a call to organize locally in your communities. Do whatever it is that you can. Hang tight with us for just a second. We will be right back. I'm going to read super chats and do all that stuff before John and I sign off. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Sorry
Thank
I
you
was
again.
long-winded. I'm feeling the endorphins.
No. That, again, nice to meet you.
Nice
That
to
was
meet
great.
you.
That's
I'll
perfect.
check you guys out.
Yeah, please do. And hopefully this will drive people to your organization.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thank you guys again.
Yeah, nice meeting you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, just going to head over to my email so that I can see the super chats and all that stuff that Colin just sent over. So hang on just a couple seconds while I pull that up. All right. Okay, so super chats for today. First one is from Jordan Sheridan. Thank you, Jordan. He says, alert, we are the only indie outlet consistently on the ground, but it takes a lot of money to afford reporters, cameramen, travel costs, etc. We need more folks to sign up as paid members to fund this. I'm just going to yes and Jordan. We need everybody, if you can, to please sign up as a supporter. Again, John and I want to be able to do this more. We want to be able to be on the ground as much as possible so that we can be your eyes and ears across the country, so we can show you what working people are going through in other places. So please do, if you can, sign up for as little as $5 a month, which is like 16 cents a day. It's not much. So if you can, please do that at statuscoup.com/join. And some more super chats. Donald Parrish, thank you, Donald. He says, thanks for covering it. It is our pleasure. And again, please support us so that we can do more of this. Labor Creates Capital. Thank you for the super chat. Teresa, thank you, who consistently sends out super chats. Thank you, Teresa. She says, support boots on the ground investigative journalism where and when corporate controlled media is too busy covering it up. Thank you again, Teresa. We agree. We have new website members, Jess and Ross. Welcome, guys. And thank you for the donation from Robert. So thank you guys so much. I think we're going to close out this stream in just a minute. There might have been one more that I've missed. Okay. All right. Hang with me for just a second, guys. Let's see if there's another one. Yes, there's another one. JG1982 gifted 5 YouTube memberships. So thank you, JG1982. We really appreciate it. So yeah, I think that's going to be it from us. This is the last day of John and I on the ground following Bernie Sanders' Fight the Oligarchy tour in Pennsylvania. We were in Philadelphia, and then we were in Harrisburg yesterday. And now, again, we're ending in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. If you haven't watched those live streams, please check them out. In Philadelphia, we also covered the May Day March. And there was some good trouble at the end of the May Day March, so you don't want to miss that stream. Again, this has been great. John and I are having a great time. We have been jamming out in the car to Third Eye Blind, so we're having a good time. Again, if you can, do support us so that we can go out on the road and get into some more good trouble. So this is it. Last day of the tour, and we're going to close out now. Thank you to everyone who's watched, and we will see you in the next video and at the next protest. Bye, guys.